Yo, what is up guys, Grim here, and in today's video we're going to be talking contract test results. That's right, we've done the testing, we've got the numbers, and we're going to be going through them today so you guys understand which contracts are the best. So for those of you who just want to know which contracts to run, you can see I've got a bit of a tier list here, and I've also got how much you can expect to earn if you ran 100 chests worth. So that's some pretty good baseline. In addition to that, I have all of the new reward types that are in these contracts for you guys to find out. So after the patch, they did reshuffle some things. So that's all the new info for you guys, all there ready to go. So let's get into how this test works so you guys can understand and decide which ones are best for you. So you can see here, I've got chaos estimated value per 100 chests. What does this mean? So when I'm talking 100 chests, I'm talking 100 league specific chests. A league specific chest is, ones with an icon on the map. So on average, a level 5 required contract, so it says required level 5 lockpicking, has around 5 to 6 chests in it. So when I'm talking 100, that would be 20 contracts. Pretty simple, right? And I've got an estimated value here of 321C against lockpicking. So when you're reading this, just do, 321 divided by 20 and, 321 divided by 20, there we go. You can see that you'll probably get about 16C per contract if you're doing level 5 requirement. So pretty cool and definitely something to look out for. Now, how did I figure all of this out? We'll go into detail later on, but essentially the chest appearances in these maps are weighted. So you can see here, if we go in and we take a look at lockpicking, we've got those 100 chests here, and I've simmed it out, which is like a simulation. And you can see here with my testing, I've determined that currency has a 42% appearance rate, whereas jewelry has a 46 appearance rate. And then of course, fragments at the end here, 12% appearance rate. So with this, after calculating on average how much you get per chest, you can kind of make a pretty good assumption about how much you'll get on average opening 100 chests, which is what we've done here. And you can kind of see that each of these contracts has different weightings based on the rewards, and that is what dictates whether one is better than the other. If we go down here to something like trap disarmament, you can see here that, the actual weighting of the only good ones, which is breach and legion, is very low compared to all of the other garbage. Like 40% of the time, you're going to get armor and weapons. Another 20% of the time, you're going to get talismans. And another 20% of the time, you're going to get like abyss, which is awful. So this is really what dictates which contracts are good, which contracts are bad. So let's get into the results and we'll take a look, shall we? So we're only going to look at the S and A tier because those are probably the ones you guys are going to be running, right? You can kind of check out the other ones here. I've got the info for you guys, but there are reasons that they are in B tier, and those are generally just because they're inferior either in clear speed or they're inferior in rewards, or both. So let's talk about lockpicking, deception, and demolition though, and then we'll get into some more of the juicy data. So let's get into it. Lockpicking, why is this the only S tier contract? So the reason lockpicking is an S tier contract is because it has a very, very good estimated value. It's a little bit lower than demolition, but the reason it's better is because, number one, this test was actually run without having any loot gear on at all, and no small chests were opened. So I wasn't using the brooch, I wasn't using the Thief's Trinket, and I opened no small chests. In addition to that, stuff like Vindari was also not included in this test. So it's completely baseline. So this is the minimum you can expect to get from any of this. So why does that make lockpicking so good? Lockpicking is good because you can use cast. Cast has a 40% reward chest less multiplier on it in terms of alert. So when you open a chest, which has got the icon on it, it's only going to give you 60% of the alert that it normally would. Now this allows you to open more small chests, meaning you get more loot effectively, which is pretty cool. In addition to that, lockpicking also scales the best with gear. So all of these can scale with the brooch. It can be difficult to scale many different rewards like agility here. So you've got fossil, essence, harbinger, and armor, and all that kind of stuff like that. You can't scale all of them with the brooch, but in lockpicking, you can absolutely scale the main reward, which is currency, very easily. So you can slap a 15 or 20% more multiplier on one of these results due to the fact that you're using a brooch, which is pretty cool. Next up, you also have the Thief's Trinket, which is going to multiply this even more with something like a Regal to an Exalt Trinket or an Alteration or Augment to Chaos Trinket. You can expect to get a lot more from your lockpicking contracts, which is pretty cool indeed. Very, very awesome. So that's why it's S tier. It's a pretty good layout. It's quick to run, you know, all that good stuff. So let's go on to the next two. We've got Deception and we've got Demolition. So Deception, let's talk about that first. Deception is very, very good because of a few reasons. First of all, it has Harbinger and Divination, which is pretty strong. Both of these have very good estimated values indeed, with Divination being very consistent, always giving you about 3 to 4 stacked decks per chest you open. Now, in addition to that, there's even better stuff here. The chests in Deception are not locked. So in something like Lockpicking or Demolition, you have to use a cast bar on every single one of the league chests you open. In Deception, there is no cast bar. You just crack them open one after the other, which makes them much faster to run. In addition to that, Deception is one of the few contracts that after you trigger the alarm, whether you're getting the end thing or whatever, it doesn't actually have any additional doors at all. You can just trigger the alarm and run literally straight out, no doors, no more cast bars, which is pretty awesome indeed. The reason this is so good is because rogue markers are very, very expensive right now. So what you can do in Deception is not feel bad about getting the end reward and taking it back for a little bit of extra profit, which is very, very good. And that's not even included in this result here. So you can expect this to be a little bit higher as well. Again, it's got a very narrow reward pool, so you should be able to get a brooch that covers both of them, which is super cool. Next, Demolition. So Demolition is a bit of a funny one. In my tests, Delirium actually turned up very, very poorly in the data. So you can see here on average, Delirium was 1.7 chaos per chest for me, which is awful compared to everything else. Now, I think I just got very, very unlucky here because I didn't really get too many Delirium orbs. So you can expect Demolition to be considerably higher, probably on average, for your testing than it is for mine. Now, what is good though is Metamorph and Blight. These are insane. These are very, very powerful, and after the buff, Metamorph is very, very good. So Demolition in general just has very good rewards. But the thing that really tips it over the edge is the question mark chests. So these chests, as I mentioned in our previous video, are essentially like a remix of all of the small chest rewards. So they have stuff like currency, 6 links, divination cards, stacked decks, all that kind of stuff like that. And on average, you are probably looking at getting about, where do we have it here? 2.8 C per, which is pretty good in my opinion. So that's what I got, and that's pretty liquid stuff as well. I'm not picking up stuff like enchanted helmets or anything like that and including them. No sacrificial fragments here. It's all sellable stuff. That's the goal with these tests. So pretty cool. Demolition definitely comes in high, but the reason it's higher than lockpicking is because it's not going to be as easy to scale with gear, and it's also very slow. All of the cast bars are there, and also in addition to the cast bar, you have an unmodifiable explosion timer, which can sometimes bug as well. Now the reason it is in green though, despite those issues, and not in yellow, is because you can use Vinderi. Vinderi is a 20% more loot multiplier, which you can apply. And if you're just cherry picking league specific chests, which is a pretty good idea in my opinion, you can just get a ton of extra stuff from him. He dupes the whole chest and it's really, really cool. Very, very powerful if you're using Vinderi. So super cool. So those are my top 3 picks, and you can kind of see how much you can expect to earn from them based on a little calculation earlier. So that's a baseline, guys. You're going to be able to make at least 10 to 15 C per contract you get. So the question is, are these worth running? Absolutely. How can I say that? Because you're only going to probably spend 1 to 2 minutes in here. Maybe 1 minute for Deception, maybe 2 minutes for Demolition and Lockpicking. Let's even say 3 minutes if you're really slow. So let's say you take 3 minutes if you're a bit of a slower player. Hell, let's say 5 minutes if you're definitely on the slower side, which is fine. Let's just say that. So if you do that, that's 12 times 12. You can do 12 contracts in an hour. That's pretty good. So what happens here? So you're going to get 192 C per hour if you're doing lockpicking without gear and no small chests and without the end reward. Now, what is that in exalts? That is a whopping 3 exalts. You can get 3 exalts an hour as pretty much, just cruising along. 5-minute contracts, not too bad. Not too bad at all. Now, of course, you're going to need to get these contracts somehow. So how much should you guys be buying contracts for? I'm not really sure I can really advise on that. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. Now that I've given you guys an estimated value, you guys can kind of go away and understand how much you should be paying. Please be aware though that if you buy a level 1 requirement, that will have 2 to 3 chests in it versus a level 5 requirement, which has 5 to 6. That's very important. It's going to change how many contracts are going to be like kind of needed to run to make up to this 100 chest EV. So that's going to be very important. I think you're probably pretty safe paying 1 to 2C each. Some people are paying 5C for lockpicking. I think that's a pretty safe bet as long as you're getting above level 1 to 2 kind of requirements, which is pretty good indeed. I think that Deception, if you can get these for 1C, is insane, as well as Demolition at 1 to 2C as well. I don't see there's any way you losing money here, especially if you're using a pretty good brooch or a Thief's Trinket, which is very, very powerful indeed. So, hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Let's go into a little bit more data though before we finish up. So all of this stuff will be available to you guys. I just want to quickly brush over the weightings because this is really where the big stuff comes in. So the reason that lockpicking is so good is because almost half the time you have a pretty good chance of getting a good reward. You can either get currency or fragments half of the time. Divination, you can see here with Perception, half the time is divination cards. With Deception, you can see half the time is pretty much Harbinger or Divination. This is what dictates a good reward chest. Now, if we go over to Trap Disarmament, you can see here, what are the good ones? Breach and Legion. So Breach is at about 10%, which is quite low. Maybe that's just my data, but yeah, pretty low. And then we also have Legion here at 18%. So that's way lower than half the time having a good chest. So it's pretty low in terms of getting rewards. Similar kind of story with something like Engineering. The only one you really want is Maps, and that's only 7.81%. So pretty rough. So when you come in here, take a look at this sheet here. It's pretty interesting. You can kind of get a lot of information from it. You know, maybe peruse this sheet as well. And we've got more min-maxing coming up, of course, but hopefully you guys can decide which contracts you want to run now, and you can min-max it a little bit more as well. So with that said, hope you guys have enjoyed. More testing on the stream coming up. Come hang out. And of course, more YouTube content on the way. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.